China's having a poisonous week. Last week we covered the bayberries, this week a lollipop. Someone left a Chinese-made lollipop on the ground overnight. By next morning, every ant that ate it was dead. Not sick, just dead. That's not supposed to happen when ants eat sugar. And the same thing happened in Chengdu with hand-shredded chicken jerky. And a piece that fell on the floor obviously drew a lot of ants, and they also died. So two different products, two different cities, one result the same. And yeah, unfortunately, I think the ants did the quality control that the government isn't. And I was dealing with some ant problems the other day. I wonder, maybe I should just import some Chinese snacks. Just terrible. What do you think is happening to the people that eat this? Now, bayberries last week in an investigation by Chinese journalists were found to contain 8,000 times the sweeteners, being soaked in preservatives and just pretty bad for human consumption. Well, it turns out not just one fruit, there's also other fruits like lychees being soaked in brightening powders. Strawberries, cherries, the same treatments. Peaches in Fujian being dipped in sweeteners before hitting the market.
不是用白糖腌制的，商贩们在泡桃的大桶里偷偷倒入了人工合成甜味剂，而且一倒就是2-3包，加多加少全凭手感，没有任何标准。
Watermelon vendors filmed rubbing unknown liquid onto cut flesh with a blade.
走的时候就看见他在往那个西瓜上面不知道抹什么东西，他抹了好几个，我只是拍到其中一个。
这敢吃吗？这样打会不会中毒啊？
不管他，
哇靠，不管他，你们只管卖啊！这气味太呛人了。
So it makes me wonder, like, is there any clean, edible food in China that's not toxic? Okay, so here's the caveat, right? You won't find this because what they export to the outside of China world, they don't put any of this stuff in, or they put very little so that it can pass inspections. And in the investigation last week in our videos, it was very interesting because they could avoid putting this in, right? But they don't, because they will deliberately leave out a few baskets of them for inspections, and it will pass because they don't put anything on it. But for the ones that actually go out to the public markets, they will always put things in. One internet user actually put it simply, saying that, well, you can't eat fruits in China.
商贩跟记者坦言，这东西吃多了肯定伤身，但架不住成本差太大。一包甜味剂只要20块，甜度却能顶几十斤甚至上百斤白糖。
He wasn't ashamed of admitting to this. He was actually just explaining the good business. And a rice farmer who signed an organic contract with no pesticides, no fertilizers, no herbicides, basically broke it the moment that the inspectors left. Because that's how you do business in China.
也不要说那些果农装得很委屈的样子，说打甜蜜素的是经销商，不是你果农，卖了这么多年，你们敢保证你们不知情吗？甚至你们敢保证经销商没有要求你们打的吗？甚至我可以肯定的说，经销商还不一定去动这个手，都是你们场地就弄好了出来的。
So that's the mentality, right? The food safety network in China is non-existent. It's built on the conscience of people that say, well, you know what, we're just going to make profit. And if you happen to be some unlucky dude who consumes this stuff, well, that's on you, right? Because you should have figured out that nothing is safe to eat. And it seems like, I feel like the moral of the story is just avoid going there, if you're somebody who's looking to go to China. In an avalanche, not a single snowflake is innocent. A mainland Chinese hiker went into the mountains this weekend and obviously these beautiful sceneries, it's got rolling tea fields, and scattered across the ground beneath the tea trees are empty bottles of pesticides, growth accelerants, and dozens of them are abandoned right where the teas are harvested. So I'm telling you, literally, there's nothing in China that's safe to eat. Milk powder, poisonous. Fruits, just overly sweetened and probably toxic. Preservatives. Food, obviously, gutter oil, right? And this, by the way, this is stuff that's been reported for like decades now. It still hasn't changed. You can't say that I'm cherry picking, haha. Cherry picking. I wish the cherries were edible. And if you're moved away from fruits, away from meat, away from sweets, away from tea, maybe you should think about seafood. Maybe it comes from the ocean, it's safer. Well, according to video leaks this week from a farm, shrimp farm, the water in the breeding pool was black, visibly completely black. It's not murky or cloudy, it's just black. And internet users found that it was the same way how they respond to everything now. It's just not with shock, but exhausted recognition. Like, this is normal. Anybody in the industry knows that this is normal. Like, that's their answer now. It's like, oh, it's normal to be poisoned by everything? It's no wonder China's cancer rate is so high in certain categories. Okay, let's be fair for a moment because it's quite complicated because the United States also has like poisonous food problems. There's recalls, there's constant, food contamination issues. But guess what? They actually admit to the problem. They know that the normal practice is not to have these bad things, right? The factory farming conditions, those things are genuinely regulated, and sometimes we think about the mass amount of chemicals being put into the preservatives, additives, and all of these things, which I think Europe does the best. But like the point is, yeah, those things can be changed. But my argument for China is like they know this is not legal, and yet they still do it. When a food company does something bad in the US, there's class action lawsuits. It will bankrupt them. There's reporters who will actually investigate and do all of this. But in China, it's like when you only find out a piece of this, you have only discovered the tip of the iceberg because it's like everyone's doing it. There's like a dozen or more or hundreds of them doing this stuff. There's no systematic attempt to address the issue. It's not a prosecution, a ban. It's just simply saying that, well, look, it was a normal thing to do, and we did it. Sucks to suck. You have the farmers who poison the fruit because the distributors pressure them to cut costs, and then they sell it to the retailers who won't pay for quality. The retailers sell it because consumers only look at price, and then they eat it. And what choice do they have? Everybody's poisoning everybody else. And then those people might turn around and screw over somebody else. It's just like the cycle just continues. So this is the reality of China. This is not a food safety crisis, it's a trust crisis, it's a moral crisis. It's a crisis of society where the incentive is to exploit for greater financial gain, and versus the rest of the world with the incentive to protect, right? Where people at every level is trying to see how long it can screw over the others before they're found out. All right, thank you very much for watching this episode. Let me know your thoughts in the comments about the poisonous stuff that's happening in China, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. All right, until next time, bye-bye.